This tutorial we will take a look on how we can make this charge state of enemy. Once the detect time is over of enemy, then our enemy just gonna charge on our player, and once our charge state is over of enemy, then it's gonna detect player if the player game object inside attack range of enemy. If it's not, then our enemy just gonna move over to move state. So we're gonna take a quick look on this. And before I jump into the coding part, I want to thanks Alex Nadu for joining Patreon membership and unlocking some exclusive benefits. And if you guys are interested, then make sure check out my Patreon. I will have the link in the description. And also take a quick look on my Udemy courses, which also I have given the link in the description, so you can go and check them out. And without furthering delay, let's dive into this tutorial. If you haven't watched the previous tutorials, I will have a link in the description, because you need to watch them in order to understand this tutorial. And if you are not familiar with constructor inheritance, then then you should definitely check out those videos which I have in the description. So let's get started without furthering delay. So what we're gonna do inside charge state, basically once our enemy detected time is over, it means it's need to charge on player. Charge on player once the detective time is over. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna create three separate scripts. Firstly, we're gonna create a charge state script. So go over to your project tab, assets, state folder, or you can just simply create inside your assets. Right click, create mono behavior script, and name it to something like charge state. I already created a script called charge state, you can see. And this script just gonna be responsible for charging on our player game object, and the once the charge time is over, then this enemy need to an enemy need to detect once again to detect our player. We want this enemy to detect our player once again once the charge time is over. And we're gonna create a enemy one charge state for this specific enemy. And I already created that script, which just gonna be for this enemy. And this script just gonna inherit from this charge state class. It means it's gonna take all of the properties from our charge state class, and we also gonna make a scriptable object script. Go over to once again assets, right click, create, go to scripting, and then scriptable object script. And you can name it to something like charge data. I already created that script, you can see. And this script just gonna hold the variables like the charge speed of this enemy, charge time, and the animation of charge speed, just like that. Just like that. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna open up our charge state class first. So let's quickly open that up, and I'm gonna go ahead, I will remove the start and update function we don't need. And instead of inheriting from mono behavior, we're gonna inherit from this state class, which is the class every enemy game object need to inherit from. And now we need to generate the constructor. So we can simply press down control full stop, so we can generate, or we can simply right click on it and then quick refactoring, just like that. We're gonna generate our constructor. So let's generate that. And also we need to override those functions, so we're gonna reuse them. So let's right click on it, and we're gonna click on this quick refactoring, then generate overrides. And we're gonna uncheck equals get hash to string, and rest of this function we just want to reuse them. So I'm gonna click on this OK. Means we just want to override. And now we just created this state class, it's inheriting from our state class. And now what we need to move our enemy. To move our enemy, we will navigate to our physics update function. And over here, to move our enemy, we will go to entity class first. And we do know that we just created there a move function in order to move our enemy. So let's call the move function. and we can put the speed or the charge speed, that how much speed we just want to move. So we can just put it over here. We do know that we already created a script called charge data, so we can define the speed there. So let's make this comment, and we will navigate to our charge data class, and over here we're gonna create some variable. So let's populate them one by one. So the first thing, we need the speed. So let's make a public float, and we can call this one charge speed, and by default I'm gonna set it to something like a higher number than work speed or move. So I'm gonna make it something like 5f. And also we need the time, the charge time. So we can make a public float, and we can call it charge time. So let's call it charge time, and by default I'm gonna set to something like 0.5 or less than a half second, just like that. And now we're going to create a third parameter, and this parameter will be responsible for you can think of the speed of the animation. So when we're charging our player, then I want this enemy to move to play the animation clip of work a little bit faster, so it's gonna seems like it's charging on our player. So that's why we're gonna create that parameter. So let's make it over here. So we're gonna make a public float, and we can call it animation speed. So let's call this one animation speed, and we're gonna set equal to one, set equal to a number. If we set it to 1f, it's basically means the normal speed of our animation. If we make it 2, then it means twice. So since I want just a little, so I'm gonna do something like 1.5, just like that. And now let's save our script, and we're gonna navigate to our charge state class. So we can just put the move speed over here, charge speed. But before we do know that we need a reference to this charge data scriptable object script class. Then we can just access these parameters. So we need a reference. So let's navigate to our charge state class, and let's go to top of our class, and let's grab the reference. It means that we need to put it inside constructor. So let's make it over here. So we're gonna make a protected, and we're looking for charge data class scriptable object script class, and we can call it charge data. So let's call it charge data, and we need to put it inside constructor. So let's do it over here after state machine. So we're gonna set our charge data. Let's call it charge data, just like that. And now we need to set. So we're gonna set our we will set this dot charge data, this dot charge data equal to our charge data, and let's close that up with semicolon. This dot charge data referencing this one, and this charge data referencing this charge data, you can see over here. Now we can see we have the reference of our charge data scriptable object script. Now we can just access the charge speed of it. So let's remove these two forward slashes, and inside brackets we're gonna put our speed. So we're gonna go to our charge speed, charge data, and then we're gonna access the speed, which is our charge speed, and we're gonna close that up with semicolon. So since we are in charge state, means we just need to make the animation of this enemy a little bit faster. So we can just move over to our enter state function, and this function get called at the beginning, or at the beginning means when we enter to our charge state, when we charging our player, then this function just gonna run. So in the start, when we enter it to that start, we just want to make the animation a little bit faster, and we already have the animator component reference inside our constructor, you can see. So we can simply move over to our animator of enemy. Basically we just going over to this animator component. So let's go to animator, and now we're gonna access the speed. So we're gonna type dot speed, and we can set equal to our charge data, and there we created a parameter called charge animation speed. So let's put animation speed, just like that. And by default we have chosen this animation speed, which is 1.5. So the animator speed means this enemy animator speed will be 1.5, you can see. And when we exit the state, means when we detecting our player, Now we need to set back our speed of animation speed to normal when we exit the state. So we will go to exit state function, then animator, then we're gonna access the speed, and we can set equal to 1 second to 1. So we're gonna set speed 1 second to 1 f, just like that. It means the normal speed of our animation, and that's all we have to do. And if we save our script, we can just navigate to Unity editor. Now we just done that thing. One thing we forgot to do that is that we also need to make a variable. If the charge is state is over, it means that we need to switch over to any state like idle, move, or player detected. So we're gonna make a parameter for that as well. So let's open up our charge state class once again, and we will go to top of our class, and let's make a variable for that. We're gonna create two variable. Once we're gonna keep track of if the charge state is over or not, and if it's, then we just gonna switch over to an state like idle, move, or anything just like that. And another one we're gonna create for to just keep track of if this player in attack range or not, just like that. So we let's go to script, and we're gonna make a protected bool, and this just gonna keep track of if the charge state is over or not. So we're gonna call it something like is charge state over, just like that. We're gonna call it, and let's go to enter function. So when we enter to that state inside our charge, then we're gonna set is charge state over to false, because we just enter it. And now we're gonna check if the time is over or not, basically the charge time. If that is the case, that means we need to navigate to, or we basically have to switch over to other states. So we will check. Let's use the if condition, and we will check that if time means the current time of our game, if it's greater than or equal to, so we're gonna put our start time state, means when we enter it to that state, that time, plus top of that the charge time. So we will go to charge data, and now we're gonna access the charge time. So let's access the charge time. Sorry, this will be charge time. And if this is the case, it means that if the current time of our game, if it's greater than or equal to when we enter to that state, that time. So in our case, charge state, when we enter it, and top of that we just added the charge time. So if that is the case, it means the charge state is over. So we can just set is charge time. So we're gonna set is charge state over to true, because the time is up. And now we can simply go ahead, and we can just close that up with semicolon. And also we're gonna do one thing. We're gonna make another parameter which just gonna keep track of a player in attack range or not, if this player. So let's go to script, let's make a variable, a bool variable for that. So we're gonna make a protected bool, and we can call this one is player, let's call it is player in max aggro range, just like that we're gonna call it. And let's navigate to our do checks function, and over here what we can do, we can just set our is player in max aggro range equal to our entity dot check player in max aggro range. And we just made the function inside this entity class, and this function just taking our player if it's attack range or not. Basically we just going over to our entity class, and then we just calling out this function, which is check player in max aggro range, as you can see. And this function basically shooting out the ray towards our player, and if that ray is really colliding with our player, then this just gonna be right, this gonna be true. So this one over here becomes true if the player in attack range, means this is player in max aggro range. Basically this parameter just gonna be true right away, means our player in attack range. So we just created this parameter basically to check if we just want to move over to detect state once again or not, because we need to detect our player. Now we can just save our script. Let's go over to Unity editor, and we're gonna open up our enemy one or e1. And now I'm gonna open up my e1 charge state, the script that we created, and this basically just gonna be for this specific enemy or this first enemy. If you have second enemy, then you can create a script called e2 enemy e2 charge state, or you can call it enemy 2 charge state. If you have third enemy, then you can call it e3 charge state or enemy 3 charge state, and the list just goes on. So now I'm gonna remove this start and update function, and this class not gonna inherit from mono behavior. Instead, this class just gonna inherit from our charge state. And now what we need to do, we need to generate the constructor. So let's generate it quickly. Generate our constructor, and we will reuse those function. So let's click on overrides. Sorry, we're gonna right click on it, then quick action and refactorings, then generate overrides. Let's uncheck equals get has to string, and rest of this function we're gonna reuse it. So let's click on this OK to override, and now we just reusing. And also so this is our charge state. So we need a reference to our enemy. Basically this enemy script, if I move over to my enemy one, so we need a reference to this class. So we can just move over to idle player detected or enemy move, no matter what this player is doing. So we also need a reference inside this e1 charge state. So let's grab the reference of our enemy one, so we can move over to any state like detect, detect, enemy move, enemy idle, just like that. And we're gonna make it private, since we're not gonna create any sub state class, and it's those class not gonna inherit from this e1. So that's why just we type private instead of protected, because we don't need anymore. And the script that we're looking for is enemy1, and we can call it enemy1, and we need to put it inside our constructor. So let's put that because we need a reference. So let's put it over here. So we're gonna say enemy1, enemy1, let's call it enemy1. And now we're gonna we have to set this. So we will set this dot enemy1 equal to our enemy1, just like that. And we can close that up with semicolon. And now we can just move over to this logic update, and over here we can check that if charge is state over or not. So let's use the if condition, and we're gonna check by now that is charge state is over. It means that we are ready to switch over to any state. But we also need to check if the charge state is over and the player is still inside attack range. That means this enemy need to once again switch over to detect state, because this player is still inside attack range. So at the same time, inside this if condition, we're gonna check, let's make another if condition, and we will check over here that is player in max aggro range, the parameter that we created inside our charge state class, as you seen. So we're gonna check that is player in max aggro range, and this basically just checking if the player is inside attack range of this enemy or not. If that is the case, means that our enemy once again it's need to move over to our player detect. And we do have the reference of our enemy one script, so we can just make the transition right away. So first thing, we will go to state machine, a script which is responsible for changing the state, and let's call out the change state function. And now we need to put the state, which state we just want to enter. So since enemy is inside our player player inside of our enemy, it means we're gonna go over to enemy one script, and now we can simply just put the detect state, because the player inside enemy attack range. And let's suppose the enemy is not player is not, it means that this player need to move over to look for player state. So since we don't have that state yet, so we can simply move over to player move instead of look for player, which we need to create later. So for now, what we're gonna do is the charge state is over and the player is not attack range, it means we can just move our enemy. Basically we can switch over to enemy move state. So we will go to state machine, then we're gonna change the state, and now we need to put the state. So let's go to enemy one script, and now we're gonna access the state in which state we want to enter, since our player inside is not inside attack range of enemy. So I'm gonna put my move state, and that's all we have to do. And now we can save our script, we can navigate to Unity editor, and we can open up the player detected where the detect time getting over. So we can just open that up and we can just make the transition. And now we're gonna open up our enemy one player detected script, because over here we just detecting our player, and we can see over here is detect time is up. It means we are ready to charge on our player because the detect time is up. So to charge our player, so let's make the transition. So I'm gonna remove this line of code. So let's go to state machine script first, which is responsible for switching our state, and let's call out the change state function, and we can put the state. So we can simply go to enemy one, and then we can access the state which is charge, and we can see we don't have the charge state inside enemy one C# class. So we need to create the charge state there before we switch over to that state. So we're gonna make this one comment for now, and let's navigate to our enemy one script, and we need to create the charge state over here. We have the move state, ideal state, and the detected one, but we don't have the charge yet. So let's create that. So we're gonna make a public, let's call it public e1, e1, and this is charge state. Let's call it charge state, and that's it. And now let's go to start function. So we will set our charge state equal to, basically we just creating the state equal to a new e1, e1 charge state. Now as a first argument, it's gonna take the entity. So this enemy one class inheriting from this entity, so we can simply pass itself. So we can pass this, and the second thing, it's gonna take the animator. So let's put our animator, which we do have the reference already. And the third argument, it's gonna take the bool name, so we can call it charts, just like that. And the fourth argument, it's gonna take the state machine. So let's put our state machine, and we need to put the charge data. So we can just simply put the charge data. If you don't have the charge data, then go over to top of your class and make a serialized private field, and you can call it charge data. Basically you need the reference of this charge data, so you can just create that and name it to something like charge data, and then put it over here. And now as a last argument, it's gonna take the enemy one script, and this enemy one script itself, so we can simply pass this, it means itself. Now we just created the state, and we have to remember that we save it, and then we're gonna move over to our e1 player detected, and we have the state by now, so we can simply make the transition. So let's remove this forward slashes. Now we're gonna put the state. So let's go to enemy one script, then we're gonna access the charge state, and now we can see we have it, and we're gonna close that up with semicolon, and let's head again to Unity editor once again, and we can just go ahead and we can make the animation transition, because we also need to make the transition between our charts and the player detected. Because if we move over to enemy one, we can see we just made that, and we have the bool parameter name, which is the charge. So let's make the transition between our player detect of this enemy to charge. So I'm gonna select my enemy one, let's navigate to animator tab, and we just need to make the transition, which I already did a little bit. I'm gonna delete it for now, just wait. We don't have that state, so what I can simply do, I can just choose the move animation of this enemy or the walk one, and I can simply press down Ctrl D to duplicate, and we can just rename it as charge. So let's go to inspector, and we're gonna rename it to charge, just like that. and now we have to make the transition from this player detected to our charge. So let's make that. So we're gonna make the transition. Let's choose the transition, go over to inspector. Let's uncheck the has exit time, a fixed duration, transition duration to 0, and we're gonna choose the condition. So let's make a charge condition for that, as we just put it inside when we created the state. So let's make that parameter. So we're gonna call this one charge, and let's choose that, sorry, I just, and make sure you spell it correct. And now we're gonna choose the condition. Let's click on this plus icon 2 times. So the first thing, I just want to set this player detected as false. So I'm gonna choose my player detect, and I'm gonna set it to false. And now I'm gonna choose my charge parameter, and I'm gonna set it to true. And now we just chosen that condition. It means this enemy now it's gonna play the charge, basically work, but with a little bit animation speed that we specified. And we also need to make transition back to our player detect, or else we will stuck forever inside charge animation clip, which we don't want. So I'm gonna make a back transition, and let's choose the transition, go over to inspector. We're gonna uncheck the has exit time, transition duration to 0, and we're gonna choose those two conditions. So the first thing, I'm gonna charge, I will set it to false, and the player detect, once again I'm gonna set it to true. But let's suppose the player is not in attack range once the charge state is over. It means that this enemy now it's need to play the move instead of player detect, because the player inside not inside attack range once the charge state is over of this enemy. So we're gonna make the transition from this charge to our move or walk of this enemy. So I'm gonna make transition to my walk, and I'm gonna choose the transition. Then I will uncheck the has exit time, transition duration to 0. Let's click on this 2 times. So as a first argument, I'm going to choose charge to false, and the second thing, we will choose move to true, because we need to play the animation clip of this enemy, which is the walk, or you can simply think of the move one. Because if we move to our from this charge state, we can see we just made two transition. Once it's to detect of our enemy, and once it's moved. So that is the reason, as a move, I just made the transition from this charge to move of this enemy or the walk one. And now we can simply just save our script, which we already did. And if we select sorry, not player, enemy, we can see charge data, and the slot is empty. So we need to create the path, and we defined the path inside our charge data scriptable object script, you can see. So the first thing, we just have to go data, then data slash charge data. So let's create the assets there. So I'm gonna move over to my project tab assets, and I will move over to my data folder, right click, create data. In the bottom we can see the path, then charge data, and you can name it to charge data, which I already created the asset, and you can see. And in the inspector we can see the charge is sped by default, I have given 5, charge time is 0.5, and the animation is 1.5. So now we're gonna take our charge data, and let's drag it over to charge data slot, basically charge data assets to our charge data. And now we just done that thing, and if we just go ahead play our game, it should be fine. I'm gonna take away my enemy a little bit away, somewhere somewhere around here. I'm gonna move just like that, and if we go ahead play our game, it should be fine. We can see we just get in and detect, and once the detect time is over, we can notice it's charging on our player, and we can see, and you will notice that. Let's get inside detect, and the detect time is over, now it's charging. And once we are outside, we can notice this enemy is playing the idle and the move state instead of detect, because we are not inside attack range. But once we get inside, let's come this enemy. So the first thing, I'm gonna make the charge speed a little bit slow. So first thing, I'm gonna take my something which is the move data, as normally which moving with we moving our enemy, or patrol this enemy just patrolling around this ground, which is the move speed 1.5. So I'm gonna make the charge speed something like 2.5 a twice, just like that. So I'm gonna open up my charts data, and let's make the charts speed something like 2.7 or 6. And the charts time, let's make it a little bit less, something like 0.3. And the animation speed, I'm gonna just gonna leave it to 1.5. And if we just unpause our game, by now take a look, it should be fine. So let's have a quick look on this, and we can see detecting, and the detect time getting over, then it's charging on our enemy, on our player. So we can increase the charge time. So we can just make the charge time something like 0.5. And now if I unpause my game, we can see it's doing, it's basically charging, but once it's get inside, sorry, I'm gonna get out of play mode, and I'm gonna show you one more time. So the first thing, by default I'm gonna make the charge speed 2.6 and the charge time to 1.5. So if I open up my charts data, let's select the charts data, and I'm gonna make the charge speed 2.6, charge time over 0.5, and animation speed 1.5. I'm gonna choose something like 1.7 instead of 1.5. And now let's take a quick look on this. Let's click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, and we're gonna take a quick look on this. Now let's take a quick look, and we can see the charge time getting up, and once it's then it's charging on our player, and it's pushing our player. But when we get outside of attack range of this enemy, by now this enemy just playing the move state instead of detecting, or we can see it's charging. And once our charge time getting up, then it's basically just moving over to detect state. But once we're not inside, it's playing the move state, basically means it's working fine, and I'm gonna get out of play mode. So I hope you get the idea that how you can just make the transition to your charts. And now also we have to talk about, and we're gonna talk it in the next tutorial, which is the attack one, and the look for one, and those states. So I hope you get the idea that how you can do this, and I will see you in the next tutorial.